From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The art of saving the deal.
I was going to take him to the Oval Office and we were going to sneak in and talk the president out of withdrawing from NAFTA. That was our plan.
One White House insider details what was at stake for farmers as a high-level debate over the future of NAFTA raged on. Water levels rising, a new crisis caused by record snowfall, as farmers in Ukraine fight to continue to grow crops.
The farmers, they did not give up. They started to look for alternative ways.
Hear from one man helping to keep tractors rolling right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Happening right now, Ukraine is calling on the international community to pressure Russia to keep the Black Sea grain deal going. The extension of the deal is scheduled to run out Thursday, May 18th. Now, Moscow has signaled it will not allow for another extension of the agreement signed last July, saying its list of demands have not been met. The initiative was set up to help prevent a global food crisis, but others are also working to stop hunger on the Ukrainian home front. Now, it was about a year ago, a gentleman from Ukraine knocked on our studio door to share his story. Roman Renishin had a career organizing agricultural tours in Ukraine and around the world. Today, he's working to rebuild Ukraine's rural livelihoods destroyed by war. Landmines, rockets, and explosions mark the countryside. Caught in the crossfire are the small Ukrainian farmers trying to earn a living from the land.
We have enough of inputs, we have enough of fuel, we have enough of seeds, we lack nitrogen.
And that's pushing farmers to look at other ideas.
The farmers, they did not give up. They started to look for alternative ways. And the alternative way is cover crop, is composting, is maximizing the crop rotation and applying biologicals.
He says while many parts of the country will plant as usual, in the areas with the heaviest fighting, families are being forced to start over. In Ukraine, farmland is part of the culture. 56% of the population own at least 2 acres or more, and small farms grow 90% of the potatoes, 60% of the milk, and half of the spring grains. And in the villages to the north and east, many of these small farms have lost everything. That's why Roman has spent the last year raising funds to help them rebuild.
We've been slowly but moving towards our goal. We have helped 3 aid recipients.
So far, raising $55,000, his organization, World to Rebuild Rural Ukraine, has rebuilt 2 houses for small farmers and purchased a tractor for another.
We shipped it to the farmer, so he was able to do the winter crops planting.
Beyond the loss of equipment, he's also dealing with fallout from the fighting, including having this helicopter shot down in one of his fields. At another farm, Roman says one of the homes they were able to rebuild also includes a small room to make and store cheese.
I don't know how it happens, but 3 times a missile hit this barn. 3 times. She produces milk and cheese, so we found her the milking device and the refrigerators and the windows.
And a soon-to-be 4th recipient can live in their home, but their storage facilities were also destroyed.
And they were under occupation. This is their shed, their warehouse. They are farming about 30 acres of land and planting these crops. Right now, majority of those fields are not accessible because of the mines.
And yet, the people and these small farmers are doing what they can to help their fellow Ukrainians. Like one of the women they've helped who lost her home and her entire cellar of food, but planted a garden last summer so she could feed the troops.
So she sent dozens of gallons of those vegetables, having no place to live, canning them outside in the open air, just helping these people and believing that the victory will come thanks to their efforts.
Belief in each other and a future restored, one day and one farm at a time. While U.S. grain supplies are tight, the recent slide in prices may be a function of the U.S. not being competitive globally. AgDay's Michelle Rook is here to explain. Michelle.
Clinton, first it was the wheat market. Now corn and soybeans are facing stiff global competition. It's coming from Brazil, and it's why U.S. firms have been importing beans into the U.S. Just this week, Bunge and the Andersons chartered at least 2 cargoes from Brazil. Reports are China bought 40 to 50 cargoes of Brazil soybeans as well last week. Their record soybean crop is 91% harvested, and with the lack of storage, it's flooding the export market and severely undercutting the U.S.
Well, soybeans, we're hearing about $2 is the premium underneath the May contract. So that, pretty significant discount there. Now we've shaved into that pretty aggressively, unfortunately, this week.
He says Brazil's corn price is hitting the cash minimums where the government puts their price support in. This may be the reason China canceled nearly 13 million bushels of U.S. corn sales this week.
All right, thanks, Michelle. The news still isn't good when it comes to winter wheat conditions here at home. USDA's latest crop progress report putting just 26% of that crop at good to excellent. That's down 1% from last week. 41% of the crop rated poor to very poor, which is up 2% from a week ago. Oklahoma and Kansas continuing to suffer the most, with more than 60% of the crop in poor to very poor condition in those states. Iowa's governor is issuing a disaster proclamation for 10 counties due to flooding along the Mississippi River. The proclamation allows for state resources to be used to help in recovery. Some areas of McGregor and Clayton County are already being evacuated. The river is at 22 feet there, which is already a major flood stage. It's reported every flood gauge in the state along the river, except for one, is at a flood stage. It looks like the southern plains is finally in for some decent moisture, but it brings with it the threat for flooding there. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has an update.
Yeah, Clint, in fact, it was an image that we were showing last week for this period right here, which is the rainfall into Texas, Oklahoma, and back off here to the east. So let me put this into motion. Severe weather threat is going to be highest back into the Arklatex area. As we get back here to the west, it's more about heavy downpours. And what you're seeing set up, which we'll look at here in just a little bit, the jet stream is going to be digging a deep trough down to the south. And as that happens, that's going to flare up some heavier downpours, possibility of some strong thunderstorms as well. As that trough moves to the east, so will the rain chances, and at times a significant rainfall as well, picking up that Gulf moisture and moving to the east. Again, this is going to be a daily or over the course of a few days type pattern as we go for the next couple of days and into the weekend. There's a look at the severe storm risk for our Wednesday. High temperatures coming up this afternoon, and basically around average near that trough, below average in behind it. Let's go and take a look at what we have. Well, who is that? Look on the right side of your screen. We know that guy. Well, take a look at your screen here. A great group of kids, and you may recognize one of the adults. That's our own Clint up there in the top right corner of your screen. The kids were showing off their rings after winning the 2023 preseason baseball tournament in the minors division. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
A fast planting pace, some rains in the southern plains, and some bigger picture economic concerns pushing red across commodity markets on Tuesday. We'll have details coming up next. And later, the untold story of how 2 agricultural advocates saved NAFTA with a surprise visit to the Oval Office in the country.
AgDay is sponsored by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels, perfected in conventional, excels in no-till. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
Diesel prices are on the decline, and while that may be good news for farmers, others are concerned it's evidence of a nationwide freight slowdown. Wholesale diesel prices surged last May after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but prices started falling months ago when a warm winter cut into demand for heating fuel and added to a reshuffling of global oil trade. That left a glut of diesel supplies on the market. Now, it's reported waning manufacturing output and trade have also put a dent in the U.S. demand for the fuel. Currently, AAA reports the national average for diesel is at $4.16 a gallon. The sell-off in grains continued on Tuesday, with soybeans posting a 5th day of losses as planting progress continues in the U.S. at a record pace. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us with the latest in markets now.
A mostly lower day in the grains on Tuesday. Oliver Slope with Blue Line Futures is joining us with analysis. And Oliver, soybeans seeing some pretty good fund selling pressure again on Tuesday. Talk about what precipitated it and how much more selling you think we'll see.
Well, I think a large part of the pressure that we've seen here over, really the last week has just kind of been a risk-off trade, not just in the soybean market, but a lot of the markets, even outside of the grain space. You see the outside market starting to roll over a bit. You've got crude oil rolling over quite a bit as well. And so it's definitely a risk-off trade. And I think a lot of that might revolve around potential slowing economy. But looking a little bit more domestically here, we've gotten pretty good weather in the United States. We are ahead of the 5-year average as far as planting progress goes. So we are in good shape. Now, there are going to be problem areas. There are every single year. There's a story of the have and have nots, and that's expected to play out this year as well. But what we really need to see to help support this market is some demand. Seasonally, this isn't the time of year where we really see that thrive. But I think eventually low prices will cure low prices. $14 is going to be an interesting level to watch for that July contract. See if that can't spur any demand.
And the funds keep pushing the wheat, even though they're so short in Chicago wheat. And is there any fundamental reason behind that?
Well, there's been fundamental reason for this market to rally, in my opinion. Looking at the weather in Kansas, looking at the potential for disruptions in the Black Sea, I think would be reason enough, or at least to halt the selling. And then you've got funds, as you had mentioned, just really pressing the pedal to the metal. They're short about 102,000 contracts, which is their largest net short position in over 5 years. So all it would take is one bad event, and it's a rush to the exits and a thinner market than what you see in corn and soybeans.
So corn actually bounced off of support, but is it going to hold, do you think?
I think July corn will be able to hold. 595 to 601 is the pocket. We tested 601 to a T. 595 is the gap going back to July 26th. A break and close below there, that would probably neutralize my bias. But down here on the first test, I think it represents a very good risk-reward opportunity to the buy side, and we can at least retrace some of the losses that we've seen over the last week.
All right, great analysis. Thanks for joining us, Oliver Sloat, Blue Line Futures. Full analysis at our Markets Now podcast. More Ag Day is coming up.
Ag Day Farm Country Forecast is brought to you by Calhoun Superstructure, engineered fabric buildings serving the agriculture and fertilizer industries for over 30 years. Visit calhounsuperstructure.com/AG. That's calhounsuperstructure.com/AG.
Oh, it's something we visited last week and also the week before, where those above average temperatures set up, especially with that snowpack that is still around. We could see some flooding as that snow melt starts to take a turn. And where we're looking is back out here, obviously to the west, but seeing more of the 70s. Well, this pocket is going to be under a ridge, these locations under a ridge of high pressure, which is going to push those temperatures above average. On the other side, we got below average temperatures back here towards the east. And that's that trough that we were talking about earlier in the show. So the temperature outlook through April 30th all the way into the beginning of May. There's the ridge with the above average temperatures. There is going to be the potential for that snowpack to melt and flood certain areas. And back out here to the east is where we could see a possibility of more frost and freeze temperatures. That includes Kentucky and Tennessee, also a good portion of the Midwest with those colder temperatures. As for the jet stream, so again, this is going to be not a 1 or 2 day pattern. The way the jet stream is digging this trough, we're going to be dealing with this going through the weekend. So there's the jet stream on Thursday. The ridge, these white lines scooting up towards the north. So quiet, but warm, if not hot, on the west coast. And then that energy is going to be pushing across during the weekend, leading to some colder temperatures and rain chances. As we looked at just a bit ago, Thursday and into Friday, there is going to be the severe weather potential back down here to the south. That is showing you the colder than average temperatures, a pocket of cold air within the jet stream translating down into the Midwest, while that ridge tries to push from the west to the east. Again, there's the white lines right there. So we're expecting above average temperatures on the west coast, but that will gradually fade to the east as we get into next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that is worth keeping in mind. Let's head over to Montana. Mostly sunny, high of 61 degrees, low of 37. Mostly sunny with a few clouds. As for the panhandle of Oklahoma, we got some rain, 47 degrees, 39 with that low. Mostly sunny. Eau Claire, Wisconsin, high about 58 degrees.
I just heard on TV that the government's going to try to outlaw round hay bales. I don't understand this. You know, you talk about government overreach. You know why? They said the cows weren't getting the square meal.
Square meal. Get it? All right, thanks, Mark. Well, if you have a joke you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Record a video of yourself or your kids telling a joke, and we're talking about those clean dad jokes, okay? And send them over to jokes@farmjournal.com. A weekend fire keeps a Nebraska pork processor closed to start the week. We'll have details coming up next. And later, before the USMCA, there was NAFTA. Today, a behind-the-scenes tale about saving that trade agreement and a trip to the Oval Office in the country. New information about a weekend fire at a Nebraska pork processing plant. PorkBusiness.com reports the facility remained closed on Monday. The fire broke out Sunday morning at the Tyson Foods facility in Madison, Nebraska. Tyson said the plant will have limited operations for the rest of the week as the company assesses damage from the fire and starts repairs. For now, pigs are being shipped to other plants to avoid disruptions. The plant has about 1,200 employees and normally operates one shift a day to process pigs. It typically slaughters roughly 8,200 hogs a day, or about 2% of daily U.S. hog slaughtering capacity. Now, the cause of the fire is still not known. Investigators are also looking into a small fire that broke out at Osceola Foods in Osceola, Iowa. That fire happening last Wednesday. No injuries were reported and firefighters were able to put out the blaze. They say the fire was contained to the smokehouse area of the 360,000 square foot plant. Osceola Foods is owned by Hormel Foods Corporation. Now, Hormel confirms the plant is fully back up and running. The free trade agreement with Canada and Mexico is a big part of U.S. agricultural trade demand. We'll have next the story about how NAFTA was saved thanks to an unscheduled pop-in by two agriculture advocates in the country.
In the Country on Ag Day is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
6 years ago this week, it was reported President Trump had plans to do away with NAFTA. The North American Free Trade Agreement, enacted in 1994, created a free trade zone for Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. An agreement that became very important to U.S. farmers. But, as Farm Journal's Andrew McCrae reports, two men from the ag world had a plan, sneak into the White House, and change the president's mind.
It was the last full week of April 2017, and Ray Starling, Special Assistant to the President for Ag Trade, and Food Assistance, had just received some important news from his boss Gary Cohen, President Trump's director of the National Economic Council.
We have it on good authority that the president is going to terminate NAFTA this Friday. The lawyers are working on the language, and you just need to get prepared for that.
Starling knew that terminating NAFTA could have very negative impacts for U.S. farmers. However, few people knew that such a decision from President Trump was imminent. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue had just been confirmed the prior day, but both Starling and Perdue knew they needed to get information to the president.
I knew, how to navigate the West Wing. I was going to take him to the Oval Office, and we were going to sneak in and talk the president out of withdrawing from NAFTA. That was our plan.
Reince Priebus was the president's chief of staff at the time. He stopped the pair and advised they could not just stop by to see the president without an appointment. However, the doors of the Oval Office soon opened, and Starling and Perdue had their chance. The pair produced a color-coded map of the counties President Trump had carried in the 2016 presidential election, and Secretary Perdue shared the potential impact with the president.
And he says, if you terminate NAFTA without something else being in place, these are the people, and he circled the Midwest and the reddest, most central part of the country. He said, these are the people you're going to be hurting.
Meanwhile, Starling stepped outside the Oval Office to make quick calls to others in the West Wing who could come support their cause.
And by the time this meeting ended, there had to be 15 to 20 people standing inside the Oval Office. And by the time the meeting ended, the president basically said, I'm really glad you all came in here. We're going to reconsider this decision.
Starling shares the story in his recently released book, Farmers vs. Foodies. He says few people know how close the country was to losing the important trade deal.
By sneaking the secretary into the Oval Office, we had essentially changed the course of history, at least insofar as it related to terminating that particular trade agreement on that particular week.
Today, Starling is general counsel for the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce and speaks and consults with groups on topics related to agriculture. Andrew McCrae, Raleigh, North Carolina.
All right, thanks, Andrew. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.